Episode 7. Why being your best self could be the worst idea of all. Hi, and welcome back to the Optifast Lifestyle Education series. This episode is the 7th in a series of topics, each one helping you with a different aspect of health, with an emphasis on weight control. Today, we're going to talk about something called black and white thinking. We're also going to take a look at how to show yourself more kindness on the road to change. I'm going to start with a quote from the wonderful Brené Brown, who has some very valuable things to say about kindness, and particularly about being kind to yourself. In an interview a few years ago, she was talking about vulnerability in her own life. She talked about how she spent a lot of time trying to outrun or outsmart her own vulnerability. She said she did this by trying to make things certain and definite, black and white, good and bad. She said that her inability to lean into the discomfort of vulnerability limited her in a number of ways. She went on to point out something that she only learned with time and experiences, which is this, and I quote, "Some of the most important parts of life, love, belonging, trust, joy, and creativity, are wrought with uncertainty." I think the point here is that building a fuller connection to life means moving away from black and white or all or nothing thinking. So let's spend a few minutes looking at this and see if there's anything we can do to overcome this black and white thinking. If you take a look at the worksheet for this episode, you'll see there's a space at the beginning for you to list some of your own qualities. There's no need to think too hard about what you write down here. First, see if you can think of and write down one or two things about yourself that are the best things about you. I'll give you a minute to do this. You can pause me if you like. Okay, now, underneath that, let's look at the other end of the spectrum. Think about and write down one or two things that you think are your worst qualities. I'll give you another minute to do that, and you can pause me if you need to. Great. Now, we'll come back to those lists in a minute. But first, I'd like to say a couple of things about this black and white issue. Let's face it, life is rarely black and white. You meet someone, you like them, it all feels good, then they do something unexpected that makes you wonder what you ever saw in them. You plan a purchase, you pay for it, it comes, you try it out, but a few weeks later, maybe the shine of the thing has come off it somehow. Worst of all is when someone that you really don't like does something unexpectedly nice, and you find yourself so wanting to dismiss it as the exception that proves the rule. So what about you? Are you a good person or a bad person? You've written a few things down now, so what do you think? Which are the more important qualities about you? Which things, good or bad, tell the most truth about you? It might not come as a surprise that people tend to forget about life's complexity when they are stressed or unhappy or under pressure. We find it hard sometimes to allow for contradictions, such as that people have good parts and bad parts. When we're calmer, we can remember that if someone does something hurtful, this doesn't mean that they are a totally hurtful person. You don't need to keep doing good things and avoiding bad things in order to be a good person. You are, people are, life is a bit more complicated than just that. But our brains generally don't like this sort of complication. Here's another quote, this time from the writer Somerset Maugham. He said, "It's amazed me that the most incongruous traits should exist in the same person, but for all that yield a plausible harmony. I have known crooks who were capable of self-sacrifice and sneaky thieves who were sweet-natured. So if you find yourself using what a person does to judge who they are, you're engaging in black and white thinking. Now, I would be a bit of a hypocrite if I said it's always bad to think in black and white. This all or nothing way of looking at things can sometimes be useful. For example, if you want to take a strong stance on something or resist someone else's pressure. But it can also become problematic if you get bogged down in this black and white way of looking at things. If you always divide things into good and bad, right and wrong, this can also sometimes become isolating, and of course can also lead to you judging yourself harshly as well in the end. So basically, I think what I want to say here is the best position to take is both. When things are generally okay and you feel like life's on track, remember how that feels, how things look in these easier moments. When things get tough, your mind might want to take that shortcut of thinking that what you see or feel is the only way to look at it. When things are tough and you feel under pressure, see if you can remember that other, wiser position of seeing both sides of things. Try to hold on to the bigger, more complicated picture. And I suppose that brings us back to where we began, with your list of good and bad qualities about yourself. Embracing both sides and everything in between is probably the wisest position to take towards yourself. The qualities you don't like about yourself don't make you a bad person any more than your good qualities make you perfect. These things and other things you didn't write down all come together to make you the complex, three-dimensional person you really are. So I think that means you can be compassionate towards yourself. You can be flexible and remember the big picture when you feel stuck. Thanks for listening. Looking after yourself is a terrific thing to do and will bring benefits not only to you, but to the other people in your life. So keep going. It's working. And remember to be kind to yourself along the way. I'll see you next time.